see. We want to start with this hot topic. What was it that you said, Victoria? It's the biggest news in
20,000 years.
20,000 years. You know, we have this serious news bulletin going out of the experiment is over. So we want to drill down into that a little more. So I have a list of questions for Anelia based on her seeing, the seeings that were released about is the battle between light and dark over and the end of the experiment, and then we elaborated on that with Tantra Mat on the 30th of September, and that's now up on YouTube as the October energetic update for Awaken Academy. Was there anything that we wanted to cover in terms of astrology or new seeings before I launch into this?
I think it's just interesting that the astrology and energetic information from some of the other people that I'm involved with all dovetails with what we are talking about on that recording we just did with Tantra. This is a period of reset. It's a period of the old melting down and the new getting started. I mean, we're right in that place where the dissolution and rebirth is happening. So really, it's fascinating to note that the astrology and the energetic information from others who track these sorts of things is completely supporting what we've been seeing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're seeing that word reset a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So Anelia, I have been, by way of introduction, trying to wrap my mind around this, and it's a huge transition. So to be absolutely honest, I have not yet validated for myself your seeing that the experiment is over. And I think always that's an important principle for all of us, is that we don't just project authority outside of ourselves and say, well, Anelia said so, so it must be. But it has to resonate with each of us. And so I've been in a period for over a week now trying to just sitting with it and trying to feel my way more deeply into it. And the same with Tantra's talk on the 30th of September. There were some things that came out that I'm sitting with. But I just wanted to ask you, for those of us who have not been able to fully see if this resonates with our embodiment, if you can in any way explain to us, and it may not be possible in words, but you know, you were seeing something. You went out of the matrix for that week, and then you had this seeing around the fact that the experiment was over. And so what I'm trying to see or feel or clock on the inner planes is there's some configuration when the experiment is ongoing, and now there is a different configuration that the experiment is over. And other than coming up with a kind of mass of energetic lines that interplay and intertwine and react with each other, and the fact that those energetic lines have now more or less relaxed so that there's more of an open space and a less active space. What can you put that in words, the feeling of those two things?
The way that I would put it into words, I suppose, is very similar to a scene that I shared with you both before, where I was simply sitting with different configurations of belief systems on the planet. So I was sitting with some Buddhist monks, and then I was sitting with a shaman, and then I was sitting with light and dark. And at first there is a resistance because that reality that they have created is agreed with by millions of people. And that makes it real. That's what makes reality real. It's an agreement of what reality is. Yeah. And when we have that agreement, then we can experience it as a group or as a larger entity, which is a human collective, for example. And when I saw that the game was over, it was simply the light, dark, affecting each other game over. But duality continues. What is duality? Duality is I and other. When we have an experience of myself and other, myself and environment, which is other, myself and another person, myself and the collective, myself and the universe, myself and Gaia, that duality continues. The duality of the self viewpoint and experiencing a physicality continues. That
because it is held within each of us, right?
Right.
That's your choice. It's a choice if you want to.
And it's amplified through belief systems.
Right.
Okay.
It's shared by belief systems, right? It's shared and we can play within that field by the belief systems. Now, the duality of light and dark, that's separate and different to the duality of I and other. It's simply about vibration. There's a vibration which has an evil intent. That's what I would call darkness. It has the intent to lower vibration, to send people into fear, to send people into asleepness and enslavement and suffering. That's the intention. It could be from the person who is going asleep that they have that intention. So that's what I would call an evil intent without judgment. I could call it a purple intent or a sky blue intent. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, it's simply an intent of vibration, of experience. And then there's an intent of full awareness, full enlightenment, joy like love, and experience of absolute empowerment and power over everything and the experience of that, and the ability to have the awareness of the universe complete, and that would be what I would call the light intent. Yeah.
Okay, now wait. I want to stop you right there. So enlightenment, my understanding of enlightenment is we have integrated light and dark, right? You're talking about the light side, that the objective is the integration of light and dark?
No, the light side removes darkness. You can't have light with darkness.
Okay.
So basically,
you're putting enlightenment into that, or maybe I misunderstood the word you used.
I wouldn't call it enlightenment. I make a difference between enlightenment and oneness. Because the experience of oneness is different to enlightenment. Enlightenment is in the light. So you experience the light, you go into bliss. It's not in light darkness. Yeah, it's enlightenment. And you experience your pure essence and empowerment, and you are aware of everything and everyone. And it's called enlightenment because I think you see the light, yeah? And you become the light. You can be there as the light. Oneness, however, does not have an attachment to enlightenment. It is not enlightenment. It is everything and nothing at the same time.
Well, wait a minute. See, that's my perception of enlightenment, what you've just said.
Exactly. So it's just terminology.
Yeah, it's just words here.
It's words, yeah. And I think there's a broad misunderstanding about it, because many people believe that by processing all of their darkness, they will reach enlightenment, which is the polar view, and also the correct view for the game of light and dark.
Which is becoming a saint. That's what Rama would have called becoming a saint.
That's right.
Yeah.
And that's not, it's not getting rid of all the darkness. It's resolving it and unifying it.
Right.
That is.
However, when you define or when you resolve darkness, what happens? Do you keep it? Do you have that evil intent within you?
No.
Exactly. So you do not allow it to exist anymore.
Well, no, I mean, I guess what we would say is you're available to all the frequencies of existence.
So you're available to
evil
intent.
That vibratory essence is there, but it's not picked up. It's not acted upon.
And the other one is?
That unified place is. Well, yeah.
No, it wouldn't be. I would say nothing is shunned.
Yeah.
Right? Nothing is there's no fear of anything, or there's no unwillingness to accept the existence of
Right.
either thing, right?
Right.
But now we can get a little more granular on this point, because I remember when I died and came back, we had some pretty intense conversations around the difference in enlightenment and oneness, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way you explained it to me at this point, your perception was that in enlightenment you are still agreeing to hold within your awareness field the aspects of duality.
Yes.
Maybe because you are in a mode of teaching. Like I held the balance or imbalance of masculine and feminine because my job at that time was to help women stand in their power. So it was
Right.
necessary to hold that polarity, right,
Yes.
for on exhibit, more or less.
Yes.
But in oneness, there is no identification, could we say?
Right.
With,
And there's no identification and no holding.
Mm-hmm.
There's
yeah.
no holding of the light. There's no holding of the darkness. There just is. And in that sense, it no longer exists.
Yeah. So are you saying it's purely internal? The experience of the experiment being in gear and the experiment being over.
I'm not understanding the question.
I'm not sure I am either. On a personal, if we can use that term, in a personal individual embodiment,
Mm-hmm.
we're not saying anything different really about this time, because there has always been the option to integrate light and dark and move into a full-blown self-realized state, the state of oneness, what we're calling oneness, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now we're saying that I think what if I'm understanding the conversation correctly that we've had over the past 2 weeks, it's just a very subtle energetic change in the collective, on the planet at large.
Yeah, and that subtle difference is not about integrating, changing, morphing, or anything about the light and dark.
Mm-hmm.
It's very subtle in that it's simply a pulling away from that game and no longer being affected by light or affecting light or being affected by darkness or affecting darkness.
Mm-hmm.
So we're no longer resolving, morphing, or anything. We're simply making our viewpoint larger, seeing, observing both without affecting them.
As your experience was with those groups.
Right, yeah.
Mm.
You don't affect them, and somehow, simply by being there and observing without affecting, it allows the reality of the light-dark dualities or polarities to stop affecting each other, to simply exist without affecting each other.
Yeah, okay. I understand, but that's always been possible for a personal embodiment.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And now we're saying there's a very subtle shift that has come in, that's come on the radar.
Yes, on a collective level.
On a collective level, at a very subtle energetic level. Yes?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that affects that holding to those belief systems about light and dark.
Yes.
Right?
It does.
That
yeah.
sends a reverberation through.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And a lot of fear, because people are attached to that game. They think that is duality when it isn't.
Well,
that
they think that's
duality.
They think that's life.
Yeah.
And that's the shattering that is occurring.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's being played out in the physical that's causing so much alarm.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
So everything, because it's been there and allowed to exist, somehow it cannot hide anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the integrity part comes in, because it can no longer be held as an effect. It cannot be affecting one anymore in any way.
So this not affecting part is kind of like when you were using that example of the yin-yang symbol. Mm-hmm. The black, the dark and the light each had a dot within the other, of the other. And that was where the dark would affect the light and the light would affect the dark.
Yes.
So with that being resolved, then I think of this as polarized light and dark, meaning that you can't have full dark if light is there. But now you can have full dark and full light without the two of them influencing each other.
Yes. And sorry, go ahead.
No. I'm just trying to make it really, really easy for minds to be able to get this, because it's very subtle, it's beyond words, but it actually, as Tantra said in that interview we did, it deeply affects us at a deep level of the psyche.
Yeah. Well, this is a choice. It's not absolute. It's like all of a sudden the doors are open for that type of experience to happen. Yeah? For all of us. And what happens is that now we can really, really taste the chocolate, you know. It's like an altered, completely raw chocolate type experience with light and dark, if we really wanted to. But also we have that option not to have that as our game or reality anymore, but move on. And the nature of duality, which I was talking about, which is I and other, is one tiny little bit, tiny aspect of the possible experiences of sentient reality that we can have. Is what we know and what we experience and what we know as the universe and everything around us. But there are other experiences of being which do not involve duality, that duality doesn't even come into the equation, or even singularity or oneness. Yeah, those are all limited to our own personal experience of life, and they're very tiny compared to the amount that is there, which is infinite amount of experiences we can have. And this view of pulling ourselves away from being affected by light, being affected by dark, or them affecting each other, and the constant battle between them affecting each other, allows us a tiny little taste of what other possibilities there are for expansion of awareness or experience. Yeah? Because even, and I've mentioned this a couple of times now, the viewing that everybody missed, and we're still not talking about it, it hasn't been brought into conversation, was the third and even a fourth awareness point. That the third one was the awareness point that could see light and dark and created the being that was light and dark that went and then sent it to both universes. We haven't spoken about that viewpoint and that point of awareness, and it's us, it's the human collective.
So if we go back to the yin-yang symbol just a moment, and we've pulled out those two dots, those two polarized dots, and we've separated the light half with the dark half, and we've created space in between, right? And that space in between is multi-dimensional. You can go anywhere from there, right? That's the space. That's the conversation you're talking about that hasn't occurred. Yeah.
Right.
That's that ultra-dimensional that you're talking about in the class.
Yes. And one of the bits of information about that is that third viewpoint also affected the other two. It had the intent to affect, and that's why it created that being of both light and dark. Yeah? It wanted to affect, it wanted those other two to become aware of each other and their existence. And by doing that, yes, both grew and defined themselves even more, even purer than before, even more powerfully than before. But there's a fourth. The fourth viewpoint is the one that observes all the other three affecting each other.
And doesn't affect with its observation.
It doesn't affect with its observation, exactly. Yeah? And that's what that's where we can go. that's where we can be.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
That's
all
the being that Tantra
yeah,
was talking about.
right.
Yeah.
And that's also outside of what's currently perceived in there's that I can't remember the name of the effect in that anything observing something else always affects it just by its observation. I mean, that's what physics says now.
Right.
That's what physics on the planet says now. But what you're saying is that there is beyond that.
There is a beyond that, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. There is a beyond where you can simply be without affecting and being affected. Because what science misses is that when the scientist observes the experiment and by his or her observation affects the experiment, they in turn are being affected. Their belief systems are being affected, their careers, their income. It's an effect. It's very physical as well, very real effects.
Okay, so now let's swoop back down into the 3D, and because another statement you made is that, well, another thing we discussed in that first energetic update was that the experiment had been a failure, right?
Yeah, I didn't see it as a failure. I can see that it can be perceived as a failure.
Okay.
Yeah? I understand the perception that it was a failure because the light never overtook darkness completely, and darkness never overtook the light completely. So those two perceptions of failure would be right there. And the absolute merge into grayness didn't occur. In a sense, it did occur, but it's not perceivable to us. Yeah, a merge of gray. When you put light and dark together, it always polarizes. It always pulls apart.
Okay, but that's not the case of some individuals on the planet. Granted, it's a handful, and it's a larger community of people who actually study the phenomenon of perception or consciousness that are interested in the techie art of realizing oneness, we could say, right? But that didn't the experiment itself offer the opportunity for individuals to yearn for that and to embody it to whatever degree they were able to?
Yes.
And so in that respect, it is a success.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that grayness. Once you release the gray, that's when you go into oneness, right?
Okay.
You cannot hold the grayness. You cannot hold that gray because it will polarize. The dark particles will try to kill the light particles, and the light particles will try to save the dark particles. So it will always polarize into light, dark again. But once you have that gray kind of experience and release it, I say diffuse it, it's like it goes into something completely different.
That's that transcendent state.
Yeah. And once it goes there is no light or dark. Yeah?
So you're using the gray as a springboard.
Yeah. Okay. And that's when I talk about oneness, and I say there is no light or dark in oneness. It doesn't exist because there is no polarization. You cannot have it there.
The polarization is the operative word here.
Yeah.
The polarization of light and dark.
Yeah. And the beauty of it being, allowing it to exist as polarized, pure light and pure darkness is beyond measure. It's like, wow. You know, it's like they each can achieve their maximum expression of itself.
Just rocketing off into something else.
Yes. Yeah.
So because my job, Lucia's job, is implementer, I always listen to what the seers see, and then my first question is, okay, how are we gonna use this?
Right.
So how does this opening, if we just go back to that image of the yin yang symbol and the space now that exists in between the light and the dark, that we can use it, the gray area that we can use as a springboard, how does that, having come into existence, make things different in someone's individual life? We've always played the game of moving from what in classic Vedic literature in the Hindu system they call ignorance into enlightenment, or what we're calling in this discussion oneness, right? That's always been the game that's here to be played. And so how does this benefit us, or how does this space that is now open, how can we use that to play that game more effectively and efficiently?
Or change the game.
Yeah, we can change the game. There is an opportunity for us at this time space to change the game, to make it into something completely different if we so chose. Singularly, as in each individual person, or as a human collective. We can, or with Gaia, we can actually literally change the game into something completely different. And as a tool, I always think to resolve any attachments to light, attachments to darkness, or rejection of either, which is also an attachment. If one imagines oneself in a room and there's this ball of absolute pure darkness and a ball of absolute pure light, and we're just sitting in front of both of them, just observing, and another ball of gray, yeah, and observing them without judgment, just allowing ourselves to exist in their presence and for them to exist in our presence. That question, I think, can be resolved by each of us. Where do we want to go from here? And for me personally, I have found that I cannot hold dissonant energies within my field, yeah, whether it's by energetic connection or association. And it became extremely physical for me when I was in, or I am in that type of out of the matrix state, and then this attention, energy, attention, like they feel like hooks pull me into different directions, yeah. And it can be very simple as knowing that today I have to pick up my 7-year-old from school. And that attention I have to program in because I don't have it. It's not natural to me. It's not real. It's very unreal. So I have to program it in, and that pulls a dissonance into my existence because I know it's not real. Yet at a physical level, there's a child, a 7-year-old child who believes he's a being living here for 7 years, and he needs his mommy to pick him up from school. So it's very, at a practical level, we do have forms and ways to continue functioning, but at the same time, holding the completeness of existence and possibilities of experience. And it's just a holding right now at the moment. We're just holding the possibility. And I think if we hold that possibility in ourselves for the next 2-3 weeks, 2 weeks now, I think that will make a huge shift for the entire collective. And you see it reflected in the news. You see it, all this muck and stuff coming up, and it's no longer being able to be hidden. And also all these individuals who are awakening, they're awakening also to all the stuff that's going on in the spiritual area of our society, yeah? And
you mean all the misbehavior? Is that what you're talking about?
Misbehaviors, and also the other, the good behavior, the integrity.
Yeah.
So it's the integrity and lack of is really popping right now. all over the planet, in the news, in the alternative news, everywhere. It's just wow, it's like an explosion. Just for us to hold them, to see them, and choose not to be affected or to affect them. To simply hold our own completeness and integrity. Because I am totally 100% know that my energy and how I hold it creates dissonance in other people, in some other people, and it's up to them to cut those connections, yeah? And it's up to me to cut any connections, energetic or otherwise, with individuals which are causing dissonance within me, in my integrity, in my energy. And it could be dissonance of evil intent, and it could be dissonance of light intent. So it comes down to a very practical, everyday level.
Yeah, we were going to do a guided meditation, but that was a guided meditation, what you just did. That was, I think, for me, the first time I ever really clocked what your experience is when you described picking up a 7-year-old child. I mean, I just went out into formlessness and looked down and said, oh, I have to program picking up a child from school. And it just guided me right into formlessness, having to deal with 3D form.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar because I guess because my orientation is not the same as the implementer, but what I was finding was that while not necessarily all the words could still make total sense to a left brain, experientially, I feel like on an energetic level, everybody on this call, or everybody listening to it just got a big shift. I mean, energetically, it's huge. I can feel it really big. And it doesn't have to be something that the left brain can easily interpret. Just being with it and holding it, like you said at the end, Amelia, if we can all just hold this for a couple of weeks, it will allow a kind of shift that we don't even want to put the label ascension on it, but it will allow a shift that will be very fascinating for the human collective coming into possible other games, a possible change of game.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I have one more question. My perception on the 21st of December 2012 was that there was a minute shift from structure to fluidity, right? And it was extremely subtle, and had I not been meditating right at the moment of the solstice and scanning for anything, I would have missed it. And as we know, we've been moving away from structure. I mean, that outplays in our daily life as just control issues or, controlling our environment to make ourselves comfortable, whatever. We've been moving away from that and towards more and more fluidity for a long time. And this was just the absolute minute shift in a subtle way on the inner planes that occurred. And so from that time forward, my perception is now fluidity dominates structure, right? If you can still fight it, and that's what's causing all of the mayhem in the world. If you're still fighting for control, then you're just being shaken loose from your life, whatever it is in your life, because the vibration no longer is supported.
Well, it's no longer, like you just said, it's no longer in favor of structure.
Yes.
It's now in favor of the fluidity. So you can try and you can force that structure, but it's going to be really hard.
Yeah.
The control piece.
Okay, so now we're in this stream of fluidity. Things are becoming more and more fluid, and as we know, things are moving faster now. Things are being implemented. Changes are being implemented faster on the planet. And so this window that Tantra spoke about on the September 30th energetic update that we recorded, at the end of that call what we said was, it's time to stop doing and just stop being. It's time to stop ascending, as in thinking that we're moving from one place to another. We're rising up to a better condition, and just begin being, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So could, what my perception in my morning meditation was, now, instead of fluidity, because fluidity still has movement.
Yeah.
So we've made a transition from fluidity, now being dominates.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it.
That's the choice that can be made right now.
Thank you.
And it's so amazing.
Thank you, Lucia, for asking those questions.
And it's so amazing because that gives us. I posted something on Facebook yesterday. It's like there's this perhaps belief or thought or something that oneness is a monologue, yeah, and it isn't. It's like all of a sudden when you step into that beingness, it's like a dam that breaks, and all of a sudden it's all this everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's like everything and nothing and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beyond everything is beyond nothing. It's like ultra dimensional, you know. I don't know what words to use. It's so rich. It's so far away from a monologue or a conversation or a symphony. It's beyond anything that we could possibly imagine if we stay with our attentions and attachments on the game, yeah?
Mm.
Well, it's all those belief systems. What we're really also saying here is that all of the ideas and the belief systems that we've had about anything, light, dark, enlightenment, oneness, whatever it is, ascension, all of those belief systems, we've come to a point where they're holding us back and we have to let them all go.
Yeah.
But this just now took us all to a whole other level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm. So we can let go. I mean, I can physically feel that the vibration of those belief systems is breaking up. It's dissolving.
Yeah.
We can hold on to them.
If we want to,
yeah, that's where we can look at where we have an attachment to the status quo. If it's, being on a path to enlightenment or whatever, and process that, letting go of being attached to the status quo and letting something entirely new be birthed every moment.
Mm-hmm. So could we just do that now? Could we just meditate for a few minutes in silence?
I'd love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just let ourselves dissolve. So first, just feeling whatever is going on in the embodiment and allowing that to vibrate through. Just allowing it to be there, meeting it, and watching. And if it wants to slowly rise up and out, that's fine. Not caring where it leads us. Not caring that we've understood the discussion or not understood it. Just allowing all of the sounds and the words and the ideas to morph and move and disintegrate. And from this expanded state, to look at the configuration that is Earth, and view that which is called darkness, allowing the vibration to simply be there. To move and change and morph in whatever way it wants to. Not resisting anything. Not trying to get rid of anything. Just allowing it to be. To view that which is light. To simply allow it its place. Not engaging. Neither attracted nor repulsed. Simply looking. Allowing both to be. And seeing that space that is in between. That neutral space that is neither dark nor light. Simply observing. Simply observing the play. The game board. The dynamics. Looking at the totality. Giving it permission to be. Giving ourselves the permission to see and to relax, knowing that we can make another choice. not having to understand what that choice is, but allowing ourselves to relax back into it and dissolve in oneness. So thank you to all of the members of the Academy for holding space for this to happen. As Tantra Mott said on September the 30th in that energetic update, we create a space here at the Academy, and the synergy of that space, that field phenomenon, allows exceptional things to happen.